Good afternoon, everyone. You're welcome. You're welcome to our pre-retirement session. We're very, very glad to have you here. Before we kick off this session this afternoon, I think that it's important to mention that if you observe on your devices right now, you're all on mute. So you're unable to say anything or speak, as it were. Neither are you able to activate your videos. This is deliberate because we would like to keep our time during this session within the manageable limits as we had planned. And so for all interactions, we encourage you to please go to the chat menu on your devices and post your questions. So if you look to the right-hand side of your screen, there should be a Q&A box for you to enter your questions or make comments or chats, whatever you need to do. So that's how we would handle the interactions today. So please do not forget, if you have something to say, you want to share something, please post it in the Q&A chat box, and we would respond to it, and we would also take your questions. You're all welcome to today's session. We're really, really, really glad to have you. We can see already we have about 74 people online. You're all welcome. Welcome to our pre-retirement session. It promises to be very enlightening, and it promises to be fantastic. Now, without further ado, we're going to go straight into today's event. And the theme of our event, our pre-retirement event, is making the best of your post-work life. Making the best of your post-work life. They say that the best time to plant a tree was yesterday. The next best time is today. So there's no better time to plan and make the most of our life after work than today. And that is the reason why Stanbic IBTC Pension Managers have put together this event for you, so that we can together plan our retirement, and, like we like to say at Stanbic, retire well. So I'm going to quickly introduce my colleagues and our guest speakers who are with us today. And so they're going to turn on their videos as I call their names, and they will wave to you. We have the Executive Director for Business Development, Stanbic IBTC Pension, in the person of Nike Bajomo on online today. So Nike Bajomo, please wave to the,
good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for showing up.
Okay, so that's Nike Bajomo. She is the Executive Director for Development at IBTC Pension Managers. Also on the call, we have two distinguished gentlemen, both in the health profession. We have Dr. Ehi Eden. Dr. Ehi, please, can you put on your video and say hi to everyone? Dr. Ehi. Okay, just a minute. Okay, so there you have Dr. Ehi Eden. He's one of our guest speakers today, and he's going to be speaking to you about making the most of your well-being and your health while you're at work and in your post-work life. Thank you, Dr. Ehi. We're glad to have you. Also, with us today is Dr. Silvanus Jatto. Dr. Silvanus Jatto. Please, Dr. Jatto, please put on your video so that everyone on the call can meet you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad to be here and welcome.
So that's Dr. Silvanus Jatto. He's also going to be speaking to us today on health-related issues specifically. He's going to be talking to us about the COVID-19 and ways in which we can prevent it and what we need to know, all that we need to know about it so that, we can preserve our lives and also preserve our wealth. So right about now, before I introduce Nike Bajomo, I forgot to introduce myself. So my name is John Okwelebe, and I'm going to be your host today. I am one of the regional managers for Stanbic IBTC Pension Managers. We are so glad to have every one of you on the call today. So without further ado, let's welcome Nike Bajomo, our Executive Director for Business Development, to give the welcome address. Nike, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us at our inaugural digital pre-retirement seminar. We're very grateful for your time. We're grateful for the trust that you have in Stanbic IBTC to give us this 45 minutes of your time. Most of us are working from home, and clearly, like we say jocularly in Stanbic, that working from home is a scam because it's like you don't power down. So taking out 45 minutes of your time to listen to us, we know it's a huge sacrifice, and we believe that you would get a lot of value from this time. This seminar is aimed at celebrating you, all who will soon become retirees of Stanbic IBTC Pensions, and to also provide an opportunity to address the concerns or anxieties you might have as retirement draws close. And I'm sure some of you will be saying, oh, I'm not due to retire for another 10 years. I'm not due to retire for another 5 years. Why am I here? The pre-retirement seminar, we started this about 8 years ago or thereabouts. And the constant feedback we always got, because invariably we would invite people who are like 50 years and above, knowing that they will retire anytime from that moment. But the constant feedback we always got was, oh, I should have been told all of these things 5 years ago. I should have been told all of these things 10 years ago. So this year we've expanded our net to have as many people as possible on this seminar, just to let us know that the time to start preparing for retirement was when we started our first job. The best time is now. So if you haven't started to prepare for retirement, if you haven't started to think about what you need to do in preparing for retirement, you have to think about, will I still have children in school, for instance? How do I fund my children's education if I am retired? What do I need to do ahead of that time? Do I have a house I want to retire into? All of those things that we begin to think about are things that worry a lot of people about retirement. We had stories of people who over and over again in various organizations are deemed retired, but they'll still show up in the office the next day after they were retired because they don't even know what to do with themselves. They're used to getting up at a certain time, going to work at a certain time, and returning home at a certain time. So adjusting to the new life in the retirement is always a challenge. So we're hoping that some of those questions will be answered as you go through this journey with us. I call it a journey because, as you would have observed from your invite, this seminar will be in 3 modules. So hitherto, to the pandemic, before the pandemic, normally would have had the seminar for a full day, like from 9 to 3 p.m. Get a big hall and all what have you, and you have speakers speaking to you directly. I think it will be very stressful for us to keep people on a webinar for more than an hour at the very, very most. We're planning to make this 45 minutes. So we had to break up the seminar into 3 modules. And so today we will have seasoned professionals talk to us about your health at retirement, while subsequent modules will address preparation for retirement, how to access your retirement benefits, and investment opportunities for post-retirement. We believe that the series will be of immense benefit to you. We are Standard Bank. We're a member of the 150-year-old Standard Bank Group, and Stanbic IBTC Pension Managers is backed by the requisite expertise and experience, strong and sound financial clout, ensuring efficiency in the management and safety of clients' investments. We believe that the support, experience, and capabilities of the Standard Bank Group, to which we belong, have been instrumental in enhancing our expertise resource-based, and general service delivery, thus reinforcing our goal to provide excellent service to all our customers. Our desire is that our clients retire well, and that's one of the reasons we have put this retirement seminar together. I will hope and expect that even as we go through this health journey, first and foremost, because again, to talk about retirement, we have to arrive there healthy. We have to arrive there strong, So it's important that there are certain things we need to start to think about to do as we age. The things we could do when we're 20, we cannot, it might be foolhardy to do some of those things at 50 or 60. So the health, we're starting with the health because we believe that that is the background, that is the if you like, the foundation where every other thing is going to rest upon. So we expect that you will join us even next week, Thursday, and the Thursday after to complete the series. So as we will journey together to ensure that you retire well and you prepare adequately for the longest vacation of your life. That's how we choose to see it. It's a long vacation of your life, and you can do a lot of things that you would enjoy. We have a lot of channels by which you could reach us. We have the Pension on Wheels, we have the SMS short code. I'm sure my colleagues will talk more about that, as they round up. But so I do not take too much of your time, we have just 45 minutes. I would like to say sit back, listen, take notes, and enjoy this session. Should you have questions, put them in the chat box, and our doctors will be very happy to attend to those questions. Once again, thank you very much for attending, and to our doctors, we are very grateful for your time. Do enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nike. Thank you very much. What a welcome address. Brilliant. She summarized, as it were, everything that we're going to do over the next 3 weeks. Like she mentioned, it's a journey, and our objective really is to equip everyone in terms of life after work, and then provide information regarding your pension benefit, and also ways in which you can prepare for a healthy and wealthy life after retirement. So there's really no need to harp on about this, because I think Nike provided a very succinct summary of the things that we're going to do. So right about now on your screen, you're going to see what the agenda is for the next 3 Thursdays. So on the first day, which is today, we're going to be speaking to your health and well-being. Yeah. So you have it on the screen right now, and we have Dr. Jato and Dr. Ehi, who are going to be helping us with all we need to know. And then we're going to speak to how to access your pension and when to access your pension, basically. I see that somebody has already posted a question in the chat box related to this. We would provide an answer to that question today, but then we encourage you to reserve all your questions around pensions and accessing your benefits to next week Thursday, when we would have experts in the house to address those. And then on the final day, which is the 3rd day, which is Upper Thursday, 2 weeks from now, we would then delve into how to prepare for your finances after work. So preparing for your life after work, what do you need to do? How do you improve, your wealth, as it were? So that will be that will be on the final day. So please hang in there. We are very, very glad to have you today. We are hopeful that you will join us next week Thursday, and also at the final event, which is coming up in 2 weeks' time. And we hope that you follow us through this journey, and at the end of the 3rd day, you would be able to beat your chest to say, yes, I know everything I need to do to retire well. So like Nike mentioned, we do not intend to take your time today. So we're going to quickly move this along and invite our guest speaker. So our first guest speaker for today, in the person of Dr. Ehi Eden, is going to come up and talk to us. So, Dr. Eden, over to you.
Thank you so much, John. I appreciate everyone that's seated on the console. So just quickly, I'll be looking at your health and well-being in active service and at retirement in the time I have at my disposal. Well, I need to just first start by letting you know that being well is a choice you have to make, and you have to look at priorities that you feel works for you in your journey towards living well. And WHO also talked about being well. It's not just the absence of infirmity or disease. You have to be physically, mentally, and socially well. That's the wholeness of your entire existence. And if you look at the model that's being used on wellness model, it talks about the entirety, talking about physical, attitudinal, and psychological, mental well-being. These all have to be in the right perspective for you to say you have absolute health and well-being. But in a workplace today, we already have to go through a lot of stress, because as technological advancement comes in, put further stress on every one of us, and we have to be mindful of this while we remain in the workplace. And we're talking about stress, we refer to it as imbalance that exists between demand and resources to cope with those demands, and that we have actually going on in every workplace. But we must make a choice of how we have to deal with this stress. Like we always know, stress is not on the short term, it's not a bad thing. It motivates you, but on the long term, it could be very bad when it persists for so long. Then we have three models, three indicators, areas where we have our stress, where they come from: our home, our relationships, and our offices. You agree with me that in our offices we stay longer than we used to stay today than it was many years ago. So it is important that firstly we must learn to avoid toxicity in relationship in our offices, because we spend longer time here. Then in our homes, also in our relationships, these also build up to heighten our stress and mental attention. You have to create time for leisure, because leisure time, according to reports, have decreased greatly. People have no time to have leisure anymore. All we think about right now is work and work, but we must also learn, as we are prepared for retirement, we must create time for leisure. Then you talk about the number of hours that we sleep. It's also gradually decreasing. Sleep is also very good. We must learn to work around that and see how we actually use that to improve our health. And that is the model you have on your screen. Then we must learn to see how we can change from our old ways and move to a whole new way entirely. Next slide, please. To a whole new way entirely, so that we can take care of what we need to take care of while we work. We must learn to get involved in lifestyle modification. The lifestyle we have lived before now, we have to look for how to correct it with the new information that are coming in, where we can actually increase our physical activity, our dietary pattern, our behavioral pattern, and increase and reduce our calorie intake. These all are very essential to us as we move to the next phase. Next slide, please. One of the things we must know here is that we must take our health personal. You have to look at where you're coming from. Do you have parents that are predisposed to diabetes or cardiovascular conditions? You have to look at that really and know what you can do with your health. Next slide, please. Everyone may be doing what they feel is right, but know where you are coming from. That's why you must personalize your health. What are those changes you need to make? What are those that should motivate you in making those changes? What are the results you want to have in making those changes? You must make those changes, set your goals, and make your health personal. Dietary pattern, like I said, also is very crucial. What food do you take in? I mean, most of us, we eat a lot of carbs and load ourselves with carbs every day. We must learn to slow down this, make our plate colorful, eat more fruits, more. And if we must eat food, let it be food that are loaded with fiber. Fiber are easier to break down than carbs. We must also take to a habit of improving our physical activity, even in the workplace. If in the workplace, learn to avoid using the elevator if you can, as much as you can. Learn to use the stairways if you have, and that's very crucial for you. Next slide, please. Psychology of eating. We must eat. When we want to eat, the body naturally calls for food because you are hungry. Next slide, please. Because you are hungry, but let's avoid what you call the eating as a result of appetite. Everything that's messed on your nose doesn't mean that you must eat them. So even the research have said that when you eat too much and frequent eating is a psychiatric disorder. So let's also watch out on that. People eat out of depression, but you can actually avoid that so that you don't also move out of that place and you have your body loaded with weight. Then we just move on now to the next slide. Please skip that slide. Well, what are the healthy food choices that we need to actually, next slide please. The healthy food choices we need to actually put in place, it will help us reduce disease that may affect us. 10 leading causes of death in the world in the 2012 report are heart disease, stroke, and low respiratory infection, and these were all as a result of nutrition. Nutrition plays a very important role in dealing with infection, because when you eat the right food, it helps you to, when your food you eat is balanced, it helps to build up a level of immunity. But when you're eating what doesn't really add to you, you find out that your immunity begins to go low, and even if you have diseases, it stays longer than it ought to have stayed. People eat out of emotion. People eat out of medication. People also eat because they are depressed. But on the long run, we're not saying you shouldn't eat. If you must eat, you must be sure that you have enough physical activity to pump those food out. Is very important. That's why we have a model called the energy balance. It's called calories intake over calories expenditure. So if you are loading in calories, be prepared also that you have enough physical activity to pump out those calories so that you don't end up getting fat and your waist circumference is getting bigger. I may bold to say here, the bigger your waist circumference is, the more susceptible you are to infection and diseases. Even in our workplaces, I mean, let's learn to have what you call stand-up meeting. Sitting for too long is not, next slide, it's not in your own best interest. You must learn to stand up. If you have meetings that are less than 20 minutes, let's hold stand-up meeting. Because, next slide please, because the more we sit, the more we have sedentary behavior, and it's referred to as an armchair sentence. So we must learn to see how we can create physical activity around ourselves on a daily basis. Next slide please. They must create a healthy office. I mean, if we have a common food source, next slide. If we have a common food source in the office, let's learn to have a lot of fruits within this food source. Let's appropriate our budget properly. Instead of buying food that are full of carbs, let's buy food that are more. Let's buy food that have more fruit content and more fiber content. Then I also talk about the meetings that we need to have in the office. If you're having meetings that are less than 20 minutes, there's no need to drag seats. The more you sit, the more you rob yourself opportunity to actually have what you call physical activity. Next slide, please. In our offices, we also create what you call water sources. Let's learn to hydrate and rehydrate. Water is the best form of drink you can ever have, and let's establish water stations in our offices. Let's celebrate when we're able to take a number of volume of water like we have desired to do. Once we hit that level, we should be able to celebrate it. Like I said before, use stairs. It helps to improve your fitness level. Next slide. Then let's also be careful what we eat, because at the end of the day, don't imitate anyone. Like I said, personalize your style, because at the end of the day, you may be eating same portion and same food with same person, but you don't know what they do behind the screen. And these are some examples I put of people who you imitate in the office. Next slide. You eat the same kind of food, but when they get home, what you do and what they do, it totally differs. The person you're eating the same food, when he gets home, next slide please, the person gets home and he hit the gym or hit the street running, but when you get home, all you have to do, next slide, is just to sleep. So you find out that you're eating the same food, but you don't have access to the same level of physical activity. So what you eat concentrates on you, because you're not using them up. The same person that eats the same amount of food, what he or she eats, he burns them out before he or she's going to sleep. So you find out that the energy level and the expenditure level are not the same. Next slide. American Society of Physicians said that physical activity for children should be about 60 minutes a day, 60 minutes of physical activity daily. But for adults, at least 150 minutes per week is important for you. If you live in an estate or live in an environment where you can walk, just ensure that when you come out from work, it doesn't matter whether it is 20 minutes, 30 minutes, just walk and ensure that you have some sweat before you go to sleep. If you look at this model, next slide, if you look at this model that I just put up, it shows to you the number of hours you have to sit, or the opportunity, next slide please, or the opportunity you have to sit every day of the week. So when you wake up, you go to work, you have to sit all through until you come back. And you look at this model, you find out that you spend many hours of your day actually sitting and involved in sedentary behavior, and these all are marked also to weight gain. Next slide. Sitting, when you sit too much, there are a number of diseases that come with it. These are what I've highlighted here. So When you see too much, it doesn't do you any good. It's not your own best interest. Instead, it makes you prone to diverse number of diseases. Next slide. We must learn to sleep. When we sleep, really, our minds, our brain shuts down so that it can go through healing to process us for the next day's activities. But most times we are not having enough sleep, and that has become a very crucial thing globally that everybody is talking about right now, and leading to health issues that we're seeing. We must learn to have adequate number of sleep. Next slide. We must learn to have adequate number of sleep because it improves not just our hormone, it improves our organs and improves our decision making. If you look at this slide that's up right now, within your age bracket that you have, I mean, you can look at where you're feeling, but I can see here that what we really need, I mean, within the age bracket of working class is between 7 to 9 hours of sleep in a day. But you agree with me that most times we're not able to get this. So it's important that even if we're not able to get this, let's try to see how much we can get and just makes our life better. In our homes also, we also understand that most things in our homes do not allow us to sleep as much as we want. One of the things you do is, most of us who have television in our bedroom is a big interrupter, a big disruptor to your sleeping pattern. You must see what you can do and see how you can take that outside. You make your bedroom a place you go into and you just feel like sleeping. Those of us who are used to caffeine, you must avoid caffeine 2 to 4 to 6 hours before bedtime because it actually disrupts your sleep. Next slide, please. Then obesity is a big problem that we're looking at across the world right now, because when you don't confront obesity will confront you, because what you have today, by the time you retire from work and you are paid, you find out that you are spending what you have pursuing health that you lost, that you have gained when you were in your active age. Next slide, please. And a number of issues you must look at. Always learn to follow understand what your BMI is. It's important that you check this out every time. Go to any clinic, they don't charge you for this, so that you know when you are gaining weight and when you are sliding out of what we call the healthy permissible stream, so that you can take adequate decisions within the right time. Next slide. You must also know that's what we call, if you have know where you are coming from. If you have a child that is given birth to by one obese parent, research have said that child has 40% chance of being obese. If you have a child that's given birth to by both obese parents, that child have 80% chance of being obese. So know who you are, know who your parents are, and know what's already involved in your family. You need to look at this and make some personal decisions. And not just for you alone, for your children, because if you see either you or your spouse are obese, you must be careful what you load your children with, because by the time you start dealing with these issues, you might not be here anymore. Even if you are here, by the time your child is getting disturbed by healthcare issues that come as a result of weight gain, you will be worried as a parent also. You must make healthy food choices. Like I said before, use more of fiber, use more of fruit, make your plate colorful. Excess of food and full of carbs is not good for you. So these are the kind of food we're looking at. Do more of fruit, do more of carb, do more plantain that is still green. Red plantain that is ripe does not give you calcium, it gives you sugar instead. So do more plantain that is still very green. So next is what you have as breakfast. You can plan your food out of how you want to have it. You can see this is breakfast, this is lunch, this is dinner. So if you look at this model and you follow it, you find out that you are not able to gain much weight, but live within the permissible weight paradigm that can just keep you healthy. Next slide. Make your plate colorful, like you see this next slide. This is how your plate should look like. Pick one of these at any time and make your plate colorful. Like if you want to live to be an octogenarian, you must learn to start focusing more on fruits right now. Fruit can take you on as much as you want until the next meal comes. Look, the next slide. Yes, I know that most of us want to eat, but this food, the next slide, please. This slide is not good. This food is not greasy. It looks appetizing. This one is not you. This one is what. Yes, it looks appetizing, but stay your mind off this right now, because the age you are in, you need to focus more on what is good for you. Next slide, please. Then what size is good enough for us? Any food that is above your fist size is too much for you. So if you want to take food, it must be within your fist size. Whether it is a portion of rice, it's a portion of pounded yam. If it's bigger than your fist size, it's an overload. So you must use that as a measure. So apportioning food is also a very critical thing you should look at in maintaining a healthy lifestyle. Next slide, please. We must also keep our cup as plain as possible. Water, like I said before, is the best form of drink. Next slide. So when our cups now start looking like this, we are looking for trouble that we won't be able to deal with in our retirement. When you take a bottle of beverage drink and you take that, it takes up to 1 week for you to be able to pump out this out of your body. Then also understand that as you grow, chronic disease is setting like cardiovascular issues. So learn to see how you monitor your blood pressure. Run into health facility. You must know your numbers. Know your numbers and know when they're going out of the right paradigm. Next slide, please. You also have the non-modifiable. We're talking about this. We just move to the next slide right now. So get involved in physical activity, like I said before, is very crucial for you in maintaining healthy diet. Also, look at when you talk about the DASH diet, that means dietary approach to stop hypertension. Focus more on grain fish. Those of us who like beef, at the age you are right now, you don't need beef. Focus more on fish, white meat, and it's better for you. Then do more of it. So take your eyes out of salt. Table salt is not good for that because that is not good for hypertension. So you must stay away from that. Then also next slide, diabetes is another issue. Watch your sugar level at all times. So if you must do that, stay away from food that has high level of glucose. Next slide, that have high level of glucose because that will also increase your diabetic condition and that becomes a problem on the long run. Next slide, please. So as we round up right now, you must learn to go back to physical activity. That's where we came from, and avoid sedentary behavior. Don't sit to watch Telemundo for 4 hours. It's not healthy for you. Yeah, you can see cake here. Cake is very good, but you must be be careful because what goes into cake when making cake has a whole lot of eggs, a whole lot of butter. Taking a lot of it every day will not make you healthy. So this is what we have for you today. I hope it's been a great time. Thank you very much, and I'll wait for your questions. Thank you. John, I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Ehi, and thank you everyone for paying attention. I saw that there were lots of comments and interaction in the Q&A session. We appreciate your enthusiasm. We appreciate that people are making comments. Before we go to the next session, I want to retirement in we're going to have 3 different sessions in terms of this pre-retirement. Today, we're focusing on just health and well-being. Next week, we're around how to access your pension benefits and the likes. So for people who are asking questions right now about accessing their pension benefits, 25%, 50%, and the likes, please hold those questions until next week. Next week, we're going to have a whole session dedicated to that. But right now, we'd like you to post questions around the topic that we're addressing today, which has to do with your health and your well-being. I also see that a lot of people have asked whether or not we're going to share the slides. We will definitely share the slides with you after the session. So we encourage you to please listen to the conversation and follow the conversation and ask your questions. We're very, very glad to have you here. We're excited to see how enthusiastic you are and all the comments and questions in the Q&A session. Please post more questions. We would have a Q&A session to address your questions. Right now, we're going to switch over to Dr. Silvanus Jatto for his own session. He's our next guest speaker for the day. Dr. Jatto, over to you.
Thank you very much, John. Want to appreciate Dr. Ehi for doing a good job on the aspect of owning your health. We are in the very period that we are all really now facing, and that is the COVID-19 pandemic. There are obvious changes in the health sector as it relates to the novel COVID-19. COVID-19 was one thing that the entire world was not prepared for, but it came upon us when it was first mentioned and in Wuhan, China. And by February, March, the WHO has declared it a global pandemic, a global health emergency, and it began to affect the society, global economy, and the global environment. And I think we all agree that we have never remained the same since COVID-19 came onto the landscape. The obvious changes that we're going to be seeing are both global. They are all global, the entire world. There's no country that is spared right now of COVID-19. It's affecting the entire global economy. With the next slide, it's affecting our economy. It's affecting the health structure. Most countries who even proud themselves of having a very good healthcare system have been really challenged by COVID-19, as we see in the Americas that are battling with huge numbers, are battling with huge death rates. We've seen the European countries had their own share of the, now it's coming to the Americas and of course Africa. The next slide. If you look at the statistics, you'll find out that these are just to tell us how the 13 top countries, as you 16 top countries, as you see, compared to Africa and of course Nigeria. We've seen the United States, we've seen Brazil, we've seen India, we've seen Mexico, we've seen Peru, we've seen these countries really having to deal a lot with COVID-19, and they are having statistics that are quite frightening. And for us, therefore, who are in this age group of pre-retirement, there are a few things that should be of concern to us. The next slide, please. Now, when you look at COVID-19 and the global health, what we see a highly infectious disease that is easily transmissible by close contact through droplets. And even now, science is beginning to think that there's probably an airborne transmission aspect to it. We've seen a human-to-human transmission that can occur so easily that just by coughing and sneezing and releasing droplets into the air, you're transmitting from yourself to the other person. I know that we are seeing a clinical spectrum that is very wide and varied, from the very asymptomatic people who have COVID-19 and can transmit it, to those who are having mild symptoms, to those who are having moderate symptoms, to those who are having respiratory distress to the point that they need to be hospitalized over a long period of time, to those who are ending up in a critical state that require ventilator care, and of course with even the shock and respiratory failure and organ failure. So we see that COVID-19 is doing a lot to us. And as we also grow older, we see that COVID-19 is becoming a very real issue. The transmission dynamics of COVID-19 shows that it flows so easily. From intra-family to, you can take it to school, from there to the community, from community back to the family. So it flows so easily among. The dynamic is such that COVID-19 spreads, and that is why we must take every preventive measure seriously. The next slide, please. That's why we must take the preventive measures very seriously. Now let's look at Nigerian statistics as NDCC have been analyzing and telling us, and these are very key to us in the pre-retirement and those who are going into the retirement age, because our work life is for us to also plan, just as the Stanbic is encouraging us to plan for our retirement. Now look at the statistics. Statistics show that the major drivers of COVID-19 are the young people. However, those with underlying medical conditions and the elderly are most vulnerable. So you find out that, just like Dr. Ehid said, those of us in the pre-retirement and the retirement age are the most vulnerable. And therefore, we cannot afford to have underlying conditions, because that increases our risk, as you can see in those ages. Let's look at it. They said at least 1 out of every 10 persons over 50 years old who had COVID-19 in Nigeria died from COVID-19. That is a 10% mortality rate. 1 out of 10 died from COVID. So we need to take responsibility to protect ourselves. Now it's not the time to just say, oh, I'm not feeling well, I'm going to the doctor. The doctor will break a prescription for me and I'll take it and I will be fine. No, you have to do a lot for yourself to take responsibility to protect yourself. And so to emphasize that even though the high population of those who are, please let's remain on that slide, even though the high population of those who have, it is the older people that are dying. And it's saying that for us, for those who are above 64 years of age, they are more like 23 times more likely to die from COVID-19 than the young. So for us, planning for retirement is good, but ensuring that our health is appropriate, is adequate. We have done all it takes to to get our health status right and make sure that our immunity is so that we could actually enjoy retirement. So a lot now depends on all. Those are the changes in the health sector. It's not so much of what the hospital can provide now. It's so much of what you have done to make sure that you are healthy. Those are the things that COVID-19 has brought us. Before now, washing of hands, personal hygiene, were not things that we were laying emphasis, but now it's becoming things that we must lay emphasis on. Next slide, please. So we must take responsibility. We must do all that we need to do to be healthy. We must do all that. Now, let's look at these obvious changes that also carry that responsibility. Our health sector was not prepared for the challenge that came with COVID-19 as a pandemic. Our health sectors are grossly inadequate, so we cannot say, oh, it doesn't matter if I have enough money, I can get the necessary care that I need once I go to the hospital. And the frontline health workers are at risk also, so they too need to protect themselves. So they will not be in a hurry to just treat anybody right now. They don't have the necessary PPEs to work with. Those are the things that are very clear to us. So doctors are going to be reluctant to attend to you when you are ill. And we've had stories that have been carried of doctors not willing to because they felt that the person had COVID-19 and eventually succumbed to it. We're now going to be more stringent measures before you can access medical care. A hospital will probably require you to do a COVID-19 test before they attend to you. With the cost of COVID-19 tests in Nigeria currently, let's say Lagos at over 50,000 naira. How many of us can actually have that opportunity, ability to pay for that fee before we can see a doctor? That is not your consultation fee. That is just for you to the doctor be sure that you are not a COVID-19 person before he attends to you. So that also tells us that we need to take our own health seriously. We need to work on it. The limited known treatment. Not so many, there's no magic treatment for COVID-19 right now. Your immunity is key to your ability to handle COVID-19. So you eat right, you exercise, you sleep. Those are the things. You maintain the right BMI. Those obesity is a very important, it's a risk factor and a mortality factor for COVID-19. If you are obese, you are more likely to die from COVID-19. If you are hypertensive, you are more likely to die from COVID-19. If you are diabetic, you are more likely to die from COVID-19. So these are the change, these are the obvious facts. If we are not taking it serious in the past, this is the time to take it serious. This is the time, if you are in this age group of pre-retirement or retirement, you cannot afford to have this because these are the things that are available. No vaccine is available at this time because we are dealing with a novel virus that we don't really know so much about. So preventive measures continue to be the cornerstone of fighting COVID-19. Those are what happen, and there that is where we all need to take responsibility. Of course, there is need for more investment in the health sector because both at the federal and the state level, and we hope that they're doing that so that we're able to have this challenge. Then, of course, more research will be needed. The next slide, please. So more research is needed as we continue. So those are the obvious facts. I just went to the National Institute for Medical Research for us to make a donation to them for COVID-19 testing. And it just shows that that is where it should be. We need to know more about it. So in conclusion, it is indispensable to control we must control the disease. We must cut off the transmission part. We must use existing drugs and other means to make sure we control COVID-19. And that is where our personal responsibility, being proactive to have a healthy lifestyle, being proactive to make sure that we are healthy, eat right, exercise, sleep, and do all that is required to be there. Of course, like all disasters that come upon the human race, COVID-19 will definitely overcome them. Just to mention that people who have COVID-19, it may take them up to 3 to 6 months to completely recover from it. And that is a lot of medical cost to bear. So we must take responsibility for ourselves. We must take responsibility for our loved ones. We must take responsibility for those around us so that this landscape of health that has changed, we also will not be negatively impacted by it. So that I'll round up here at this point, and I'll take questions that anyone may have for us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jatuo, for that expose on the COVID-19 and what we need to do. I mean, I'm not a health expert, but just for emphasis sake, I want to reiterate something that Dr. Jatto mentioned in case we missed it. And what he said, and I think that this is very critical, so please pay attention. He said that there is no known vaccine or solution for COVID-19 today. But the decisions that we make in terms of our health and our well-being is what will preserve our lives. So we need to beef up our immunity by eating right, by sleeping right, by taking water, and these are things that are within our control. Fantastic. Thank you so much for the two sessions, Dr. Ehi and Dr. Jatto. Right about now, we're going to quickly take questions and answers. I see that a lot of people have posted questions in the Q&A session. I also see that Dr. Ehi has been addressing some of those questions. So quickly, I would ask Dr. Ehi to address 2 or 3 of the recurring questions. So I see questions around eating, in terms of water and food and nutrition. I also see questions around BMI. We've gotten quite a lot of questions around the BMI. So Dr. A, please quickly please respond to 2 or 3 questions around these topics that we've seen in the chat room, and then we will come to Dr. Jatto. Thank you. Dr. A, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, John. I've been attending some of the questions as I see in the question and answer session. But I mean, what I see that's most recurrent is people are asking what is the right blood pressure they should have, and some are asking what is a food portion, and all have you. Some are asking should they drink before you drink. Yeah, for blood pressure, the normal range is 120/80. So when you are shooting beyond this, you should be worried. And somebody also asking a question, which of course is very valid, that people have bigger bones and they may have higher BMI when you measure them. But I just advise you can use what you call waist to hip ratio, and that's a very good. You can Google that. There's a template for that online. You can see it. Use waist to hip ratio measurement to know where you are. There's calculation for that. And again, keep an eye on your waist circumference. I repeat, on your waist circumference. The higher your waist circumference is becoming, the more susceptible you are to illness. Someone is asking, how at one point can he or she drink Coke at age 65? If I were you, I wouldn't even like to see the bottle. Go and look for a bottle of water and avoid Coke at age 65. You don't need that for now. So understand that it's not good for your health at the age you are in. Someone is also asking, how can every food be measured? Yes, some of the food can be measured. I mean, you can scale your food in your home. You have food like swallow and rice that are loaded with carbs, and these are high carbohydrate food. You can portion them and use your feast as a guide. That's also very, very crucial. So you should look at this. Someone is asking the juice. Can they drink juice? Yeah, you can drink juice, but I don't recommend the one you buy in the supermarket off the pack. Those are already stored with so much preservative. They're not going to help you. But you can buy fruit, take them home, do what you call freshly squeezed homemade fruit. That will give you what you need. I think these are some of the questions are
Thank you, Dr. A. Those are very, very insightful contributions, and I hope that the answers that he's provided has addressed the concerns that we have. Dr. Jatto, over to you. Please take 2 or 3 prominent questions around the COVID-19 session that you just had. Thank you.
Very much. I'm just looking at one now, talking about the plan to open private schools and all that, or to open the schools and the fears that are associated with it. So the question, please, what is your advice to people in this category? Yes, one thing I would just say, and that is where we say taking responsibility. At this time, what can we do? Of course, the government will take decisions based on economic criteria or consideration. You need to keep the economy running, but you also need to take a personal decision as to what amount of risk you're ready to take, especially with concerning children returning to school. If the planned stage return is such that the older ones are the ones going to return first, while the younger ones in the primary school remain, then we will also need to go. You also need to take a step further to see how much preparation is your school that your child is attending making to receive even the older students back. If you don't feel comfortable with the plan they put on ground, then you may have to just take responsibility and take a decision that your children shouldn't return. It's a personal responsibility that you have to take at this time. Okay, I think that we answered. So how can one improve on sleep and follow all the advice but still have trouble sleeping? I think the problem with sleeping, it has to do with the regularity of sleeping. Your body has an internal clock that works, and so when that clock is set, if you are going to bed at the same time as much as possible, then that clock begins to run on that timing that you have given to it. However, if your sleep is so irregular, today you sleep 8 o'clock, tomorrow you sleep 1 o'clock, and all that. If your sleep are so irregular, then your sleep pattern becomes very difficult and you are not able to get a restful sleep. So one thing that's important is adequate time of adequate sleep is okay, but you need to make sure that your sleep is regular. You go to bed as often as possible at the same time. In that way, you won't have trouble falling asleep. Of course, if it's becoming something that's affecting your health, you need to see the doctor and get some further evaluation and support from there. He said, can you explain the size of food more than your fist? Yes, I think he had really addressed that. The fact that if you're eating the pounded yam or something, it is the size of your fist that should determine the amount of that which you should eat. So let me see if there are any. Okay, appropriate blood pressure have been addressed. Okay, it's like talking about hydration and taking water. Can plain green tea without milk also count for water? Well, it cannot count for water. Tea is good because if you take tea as a person, it's not bad, but having tea cannot hydrate because tea comes with its own how will I put it, electrolytes, come with its own other things which your body needs water to now separate. So taking tea in place of water does not really address the issue of adequate water intake and hydration. Okay, ask a question here. What is the relationship of longevity of health and race and country of origin? Well, the point is a lot of factors go into talking about longevity. We've seen people in Africa who lived long, just as we've seen among the Caucasians. There are other factors that come into it. Environment comes into it. Your lifestyle comes into how long you live, no doubt. So if you do many of the things Ed he said, and you bearing all opportune circumstances, you should actually live longer. So a race alone is not a factor that just determines how long your life expectancy is. It's also a factor of many things: environment, your lifestyle, your health status, and all that. Okay, so
doctor, I see that some people are asking about the face shield and face mask.
Face mask.
Yes, if they are effective.
Yes, WHO and NCDC have clearly stated you have to use both of them together for it to be effective. Using the face shield alone, now that science is saying that there is an airborne aspect to the transmission of the virus. What do they mean by that? Is that initially it was thought that when you cough, sneeze, you release droplets, and those droplets with over a short time settle down on the floor or on any surface around you. And it is when you touch that surface that you can contract. But now science is saying that the droplets will actually stay for some time in the air, And if you now walk into that environment and breathe in that air, you can actually breathe in. So it is the face mask that is the most important of those protective things than the shield. But if you have to use the shield, then you have to use it with the face mask. It's not advisable and it's not preventive enough to use only the shield. It's just a way, because with the shield, you still be breathing in the air around there, and there's nothing to actually hold back any droplets. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
Yeah.
And thank you everyone for your contributions, for your question. I see that someone actually mentioned that they do a lot of exercise and it helps them sleep well. This has been a very, very interactive session. Like we mentioned, it's important that we do not take too much of your time, because we are aware, we are mindful that all of us are busy, even though we are all working remotely, which is why we had segmented this time for about 45 minutes. So we thank you so much for your time today and for your participation. We see that there are lots of questions specific to pension and specific to how much you can access, in terms of whether you can access 5% or 50%, and the documentation that you require. At the start of this session, we mentioned that we are going to have three sessions. So the pre-retirement seminar is broken down into 3 days. Now, this is the first one, which speaks to your health, because like they say, health is wealth. Now, on day 2, which is coming up next week, Thursday, we are going to address questions that are strictly related to how you access your pension, when you access your pension, and how much you can access. So all the questions that you have around accessing your pensions, please reserve those questions. I saw a question on retirees in the civil service. Please reserve those questions for our session next week, Thursday. It's a date we look forward to having you there. And after that, we would have a final session on Tuesday, upper week, where we will then address the things that you need to put in place and know, so that you can have the ideal life after work, or your dream life after work. We want to say a very big thank you to Dr. Sylvanus Jatto and Dr. Eyin Eden for their time today and for all the information that they shared with us. We have reassured everyone on the chat that we will make available these slides to everyone on the call. So please look out for it. We will send the slides to you after this time. But we want to say a very big thank you to everyone that connected. We really appreciate you. We hope that you've learned a lot from this session, and we hope that it was useful, very, very useful to you. On this note, we're signing out, and we say, have a lovely week ahead, keep safe, and we'll see you next week, Thursday. Thank you, and God bless you.